Hey cool people, it's Krystle. This week's episode of The Coolest People in the World features my friend, Nugget Masino. Wife, boy mom, teacher, and most recently, the Florida Pro Masters Bikini Bodybuilding Champion. Nugget's currently one of the top natural bikini athletes in the country, having won 4 overall titles in the last month at 3 pro shows. I had the honor of interviewing Nugget on the local radio show that I co-host. In the same week, I was planning on having her as a podcast guest. So as you'll hear, this episode is a little bit different as it begins with our radio interview, followed by a deeper dive into motherhood, body image, and more. I hope you enjoy this episode, sponsored by Loving Life Boutique. Enjoy 20% off at lovinglifeboutique.com when you use code KJB20. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend. Enjoy!
You've just landed on the Coolest People in the World podcast, a show that features stories of cool people doing really cool things. From business, art, and travel to lifestyle, mental health and family, and everything in between. Join host Krystle J Bailey as she introduces you to some of the coolest people in the world. Here's Krystle.
Good morning, Nugget.
Good morning, Krystle.
Thank you for being on today. Nugget is pretty incredible. I'm staring at a ruby encrusted crown on the table. Is this are they rubies?
Yes.
Ruby encrusted, beautiful crown on the table that she just returned to New Jersey with from Florida because we were just going over her exact title, the Florida Pro Masters Bikini Champion. And we're going to get into all of that this morning and talk about the journey, talk about the nutrition that goes into being a bodybuilding champ, and little bit of what it's like to be a mom doing all these things as well. So I look forward to taking this journey with you, Nugget. Please give us the rundown on just the nutshell of who you are, and we'll unpack it from there.
Okay. Geez, that's kind of a loaded question.
Right?
So I'm going to do my best to consolidate my answer here. I am first and foremost a mom, as you mentioned. My boys, Remington and Stellan, are literally the lights of my life. Mm-hmm. And the reason I pretty much do anything and everything. I am an educator, bodybuilder, fitness trainer, group fitness instructor, wife to my amazing and supportive husband, Franny, mm-hmm. and general person who likes to do good in the world.
And you do good in the world.
I try.
You inspire me, and I know you inspire a lot of people. And the thing that is really cool to me about you is that you are this champion bodybuilder. And if you guys are listening, please jump on Instagram, Facebook, go look up on Facebook, Nugget Masino, on Instagram, Nugfit, Nuggfit, because this woman's body is incredible, but that's only the beginning. I mean, that's only a part of who you are, because who you are in your heart and the way you think and the way what you do for others is so far beyond that. And so tell me a little bit before we talk about the other things that you are. What does this championship look like? There was 3 different competitions that you competed for recently, and you're just returning from Florida with this beautiful crown and this like Super Bowl style giant championship ring.
It is pretty cool.
It is pretty neat. Look at this Super Bowl ring getting out of the car. Talk to me a little bit about that journey.
Okay, so if I'm being completely honest, and I have only been doing this for a year.
Competing?
Yes.
Okay.
I have been working out for as long as I can remember. That's always been a part of my journey. I was not always a huge weightlifter. I started out as a runner. I've never ran a full marathon, and I never will, because every time I run a half, I think to myself when I get to that 13.1 that there is not a single step more that I have within me to go any further. No desire whatsoever. Just hand me the Bloody Mary and the medal, and I'll be on my way. Thank you. But I started there, and that was well and good. And as I went through different journeys in my life, and not all of them pleasant, mm-hmm. I've had some, sadness in my life as I've gone through. And I found that working out was a place of comfort for me and something that I can control mm-hmm. when the rest of my life felt out of control. And so it evolved from there. And then I had this crazy idea back in 2017 that maybe, just maybe, I would get on stage and try to compete in bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. However, the universe, God, what have you, had other plans, mm-hmm. and I got pregnant.
I understand that. I've been there.
As it may be. So that derailed me a little bit there. I mean, I still worked out throughout my pregnancy. I got my group fitness instructor certificate, which I was very inspired by my bestie and your sister.
Yeah, my sister.
Tamara, who, if she's listening right now, I love her so much. And
I'm sure she is.
She is my heart, soul, and the best person I know.
Hi, TT.
Truly.
I invited her to station. I don't know if she saw my text, though.
Oh, well, I am just in all of her, and she really is
amazing.
my ride or die when I say that. She's my soulmate.
I love
if you
that.
will.
She's an amazing TT to my kids and
yes.
sister to me, so I love that.
Yeah, so she inspired me, and that's actually how we met, because I took her group fitness classes and had the best time. So I went and got certified in that, had my son. Then, fast forward to 2020 in the pandemic, I got a home gym and I was starting to work out there. And I thought, okay, maybe when this is all over, let's do this again. And then I started training at Wolf Fitness Gyms, by the way. Tony actually is the owner there, and he had said to me back in 2020, he was like, oh, I think you could compete. And I was like, yeah, me too. I was all about it. And then I got pregnant again.
And
what
motherhood.
can I say? It's like you get in great shape and suddenly your husband can't keep his hands off you. So there you are. So 2021, I had my second baby, Stellan, and I guess I didn't really think about competing again, although I continued to work out. I continued to teach my group fitness classes, continued to do all of those extracurriculars as far as fitness is concerned. But it wasn't until I turned 39 last January when I had this moment, this reckoning with myself, where I thought, oh my goodness, what are all these things that I wanted to do before I turned 30? And I started thinking about my childhood self and all the dreams I had, the crazy things that you think you can do when you're a kid. And in the back of my mind, I was trying to think, okay, well, obviously I'm not going to, be Margot Robbie tomorrow and be winning Oscars. I'm not going to be some famous movie star. So that's pretty unlikely to happen, but you never know.
Right.
I'm probably not going to go to space. I'm not going to be an astronaut. So what are these deliverables that I can achieve? And the one thing that came back to me was bodybuilding, and to finally get on stage and compete.
I love that.
So I reached out to Joe Lacera, who is, he used to own Hometown Fitness, which before that was the Mays Landing Tilton Fitness.
Oh, yeah. I used to go to Tamara's classes there.
Yes, that's exactly. See, it all comes back to Hometown Fitness and Mays Landing Tilton. And now Joe is a trainer with Real Training at the Brigantine Wolf Fitness. And I'm one of his clients now. He is my coach. So I reached out to him because he is a Mr. America. He's in fantastic shape, and he's just an all-around decent, great guy. And somebody I trusted to take me through this journey.
Yeah.
And so I thought I would be one and done. So 6 months of training. I started training, I guess, in January, right after I turned 39. And the goal was to get on stage at an ANBF show in Asbury Park.
Fill in for the non...
So ANBF is I'm a natural bodybuilder, so that means I am not enhanced on gear or anything like that. I would be very scary, I think, if I were to be enhanced, simply for the fact that I am already a lot. I have a very strong personality.
You're very intense.
I am very intense, and
but in a good way.
I am intense. But I do not need any extra help in turning into She-Hulk. And I respect athletes who are, enhanced. I have nothing against that. It's just personally, it's just not for me.
Right.
So ANBF is a great organization in the natural bodybuilding world, run by Kent Beerley, who is such a great guy. And, I went up there in May, and I thought I was one and done. Like I said, this was just a pipe dream, wanted to accomplish it. But unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, I won my first show.
And that's all you needed to keep going.
And then I was like, well, we might as well do another one now that we can win money.
Right. So where was that first show?
That first show was in Asbury Park at the House of Independence.
Okay.
And what a great venue and a great experience. And the other athletes were fantastic. And I met so many new people, and I made so many friends that it became instantly almost addicting to me. So then we took a little bit of time off. And
no babies, no more babies.
No babies. I mean, it was a summer, so that was in May. So I was back competing in September, and I went back to Asbury Park for my pro debut, which didn't go as I planned. I came in third there, but that wasn't so bad for a first pro show. My second show ever to come in third place. Took some feedback, went to Mr. America, which was in Atlantic City, and I placed in the top 5.
So can we pause there?
Yeah.
Is Mr. America, what does that look like? Because you're obviously a woman.
Well, it's you get to be Ms. Bikini America.
Okay.
As the case may be. So I went there, and that was a huge show where my friend Maria Popa actually won. She's from Italy.
Oh,
so
wow.
they had athletes, coming from Canada, Italy, like all over the country.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that I had been exposed to something of that grand scale. The AMBF shows were a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate, and a lot of the athletes that you see time and time again.
Yeah.
This was my first time being exposed to people who had won the Yorton Cup, which is the OCB Grand Championship, which I will be attending this year. I did get an invite, actually 2 invites, but we'll get to that.
So you could be the grand champion.
You never know.
All right. We'll follow up when you are.
Yeah, right. So I went to the Mr. America, and Mark Tariello is actually the promoter for that show. And I had no idea what to expect, but that really was like, I was starstruck.
Yeah.
I mean, just the quality and caliber of athletes backstage was enough to inspire me.
Yeah.
And you see athletes like I mentioned, Maria Popa and Misty Weatherford, who is a really fantastic natural bikini athlete that I absolutely always joke that I'm coming for her shoulders. That's what I want to look like. And if you're listening in, you feel free to look these people up because they are fantastic athletes in and of themselves. So I did that show, and I came in top 5 in bikini, I believe. And, I knew that this is something I wanted to continue, and I knew that there was more in me and that I could do better.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I had to sort of let go of was this ideal perception of my own body and what it should look like. Mm-hmm. Because what I thought was my best self was not actually matching the criteria of the organization for the category. Yes.
Very interesting.
And that's a really tough pill to swallow.
Can you color that in a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I came in very conditioned, a little too hard, a little too muscular. And it was really hard for me to hear that feedback that I was too much.
Yeah.
And I think as a woman, and maybe this resonates with you, there is something instantly like soul sucking when someone tells you that you're too much.
Yeah. It makes me want to either hide or
it.
well, I'll be more then.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Too much, too much. I don't belong here. So I started really doubting myself and thinking that, maybe I don't belong in this. Maybe this is the wrong thing for me. I'm not big enough for figure, which is a more muscular kind of, and there's different shapes and builds within bodybuilding and categories. And now I do bikini, which is probably the least muscular, the softest, more hourglass appearance. And it's probably when people think of bikini athletes, they tend to think of exactly what it sounds like. I don't know how else to describe it, but not necessarily like a female bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And those athletes are incredible as well.
Because you wouldn't look at you because you are rock hard, but you're not big. You're actually really tiny.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I think, oh my God, I'm so big and so small at the same time. It's a funny, weird thing. It's a weird dichotomy that you sort of come into with this type
I
thing.
imagine.
And the dysmorphia that comes along with it, because honestly, you spend so much time looking yourself in the mirror day after day, practicing your posing, doing all of these things, that you sort of lose actual sight of what you really look like.
Yeah.
And that's where I think my coach has been so important to keep me grounded and to pull me back in when I start going too much in one direction in my own head. And that's probably the dangerous thing about this, is that your head is what gets you. It's not the showing up and working out. That's the easy part. It's keeping your head in the game.
What I hear you saying though is you are somebody that we would look to as the pro that has it figured out. And I like what you said off air, like my abs are the least interesting thing about me. The fact that you even acknowledge this is a struggle, because someone looking from the outside looking in, you wouldn't imagine that you would struggle, especially with image of all things. So let's talk a little bit about that and kind of how your coach has helped you with that.
Okay, well, I can absolutely attest to that. And again, I've only been doing this for a year, and professionally at least. And actually all around only for a year. But after the October show and being in such fantastic shape, the most difficult thing was putting weight on. And actually it was very easy to do, to actually just eat, because you're so restricted for so long. It was very easy for me to just go out and eat all of the things that I felt like I hadn't been able to eat.
Yeah.
And it caught up with me very quickly. But the important thing is to remember that you cannot put on muscle if you don't eat in a caloric surplus.
Makes sense.
So it's necessary for growth. I mean, you can stay lean all year round and never get any better and then wonder why you're not winning.
Right.
Or you can take that and run with it and try to make yourself into something better. So I will be very honest with you, and I'll say that there were many days that I cried in November and December especially, where I absolutely just, I had to buy new pants. And coming off of looking the way that I looked in May and September and October, and looking in the mirror and not recognizing myself or hating the image that I saw or the fact that my clothes didn't fit was really wild. And then people look at you and you're still, it's not like you've ballooned into something crazy. It's just that it's just a difficult thing to accept about yourself. But I learned a lot about myself through that. And also I know now that I wouldn't be winning today if it wasn't for that weight gain in that time period. If I didn't do that, if I didn't struggle with that, then I wouldn't be winning now. And even at my 40th birthday, I look at those pictures and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, oh my God, like what? I was struggling that day trying to find something to put on, to wear to my party.
Isn't that crazy?
It is.
It's so crazy because you would never ever from the outside looking in see that about you. And like, as someone who has struggled with weight, and I've been open about that and body image over the years, and a lot of that is in my book, and I did early on recognize that it wasn't just people who were overweight who struggle with body image. Everybody in some way is looking in the mirror and wondering, should I be more? Should I be less? Should I be this? Should I be that? And this conversation is really important. So I'm glad that you're having it. I'm glad that you have taken this journey at a stage in life where you're more mature, you are a mom, you have an understanding, because the power in which I think you'll be able to reach younger women starting out on this journey that don't have that kind of understanding, this level ground, this what does it feel like to come back to center and to find the coach I need to talk me out of this space. I think you're going to be able to really inspire a lot of women in that regard.
Thank you. I hope so too. And something I do really want to point out is that people will look at my Instagram and they will see the highlight reel. Okay. And I do try to keep it very real a lot of the time. And I recently did post a beginning of prep and current, body comparison. But I don't want people to ever think that this is normal or healthy to remain this lean year round. It is not. This is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. So when you look at my pictures and say, oh my God, I could never be that, or I want to be that, or whatever that reaction that you have, whatever that triggers within you, whether that's an insecurity or something that you inspire to, it is important for me to always say, it is not feasible, healthy, or reasonable, or sustainable to maintain this level of lean year round.
I love that. I love that you pointed that out and shine light on it, because that's exactly what people do. They think that you or whomever, not just you, look like this all the time. And it's always, as someone who lives on the internet too, it's always a highlight reel in some way, even when it's not. Even the authenticity is still a filter before you get to the gram.
Yeah, exactly.
It's still a filtered level of authenticity in some way.
It's very cultured,
I don't think we finished the journey of the Florida Pro. So you won.
Yes, let me get to that. Okay, so I guess we'll fast forward sometime. So I went back into prep in February, and I was a little concerned because I was much bigger than I'd ever been probably in my life in recent years. And I'm thinking, where is this going? How are we going to do? And then as things started coming off, I went and competed again with the ANBF, where I earned my pro card back in the early part of May. I guess that was like May 11th in Brick, New Jersey. And I won my first pro show. And that was great.
Congratulations.
It's wonderful. You want to win. It's nice to win.
Right.
I was hoping I would win. I wasn't necessarily expecting anything to be handed to me, especially not having had the most successful fall season last year. And then the following week, I went to Burlington, New Jersey, where I competed as an amateur with the OCB, which is a very large natural bodybuilding organization, but one that does not recognize pros from other natural organizations. You have to actually go through their ranks and earn their pro status. So I went to that show, which was a very competitive show, lots of wonderful athletes, a lot. And I battled my way through, and I won the overall in Masters and the overall in the Open. So I earned my pro status there and a double invitation to the Yorton Cup in September in North Carolina. So I will be there this year.
I love that.
Yeah. So, three overalls in two
shows. That was a good fast pace. I just got the 1 minute warning. That was a good fast pace catch up. No, you're good.
Yeah. And then, here we are at the Florida Pro, which I was like, well, it'd be nice to win. And here we are. We got our fourth overall in 3 shows, and I couldn't be happier. So now it's just, grow, and see what we can bring for the big old champions and championships and the Mr. America in the fall.
So going on that journey then, we got 30 seconds. Tell me what was the most thrilling part? Like just going through it, just coming, you're still in it really. You're just coming back from Florida this week. What was the most exciting part so far?
Just the disbelief that I had done that.
Yeah.
I really just did that.
Yeah. Yes, you did.
I think that was the most shocking and awe-inspiring moment where I was like, I cannot actually believe that we did that.
We're back. You are here with Krystle Bailey and my guest, Nugget Masino. Hey, Nugget.
Hey.
So we were just having some good conversation on the break about the lifestyle behind the grand champ, bodybuilding champ we have here at the table today with her glistening crown and Super Bowl ring. I want to get into the food and the lifestyle. So you are a wife and a mother.
I am.
In addition to the champ.
Yes.
I keep using everything I share about you on social media right now. I want to be like, the champ is here. Or
I love that. No, please do. I love the hype. Go ahead.
It's been every song. I'm like, I can't pick another song that's not something about a champion.
So you can certainly tag me and I'll repost it and I'll live vicariously through that.
I love it. So talk to me about what your husband and the boys think about this journey, what it's been like on that side.
Well, my kids are really young, 5 and 3, and I don't know that they necessarily understand everything I do, but my oldest one, no matter where I come from at any point of the day, when I enter a room, he asks me how my workout was. How's your workouts, Mom? How was the gym?
Yeah.
He says that every time. He just assumes that's where I am. And, there is a little bit of a flack that I get or questions that I get asked or side eye when people say, well, you're taking time away from your kids. And no, I am actually giving myself a mental health break to be a better mom when I am with them. Absolutely. Because I need that time. Everybody needs a time, whether that's the gym or that's, knitting or going to the beach or whatever it is. I mean, people do need their time away from their kids to be a better mom. I would say that dinner time is a little rough, because I'm making 4 different dinners. I have 2 very picky little boy eaters that one likes mac and cheese, one hates mac and cheese, one likes dinosaur chicken, and one, will maybe eat it, maybe chuck it, maybe feed it to the dog. Much. So there's, that variable. And my poor husband has been eating chicken, zucchini, and potatoes nonstop on repeat for months, to the point where I was just mentioning to you that he stopped eating when I'm cooking and said, I'll just get something for myself. And I feel bad, but I mean, I'm a creature of habit. It doesn't bother me to eat the same things every day.
Right.
I have probably been keeping rice cakes in business single-handedly. I don't know that anyone else is buying as many rice cakes.
I do like rice cakes. I still buy them, but probably not in bulk.
I would say that I probably go through a bag of rice cakes a day.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
And that's just like a munchy thing because it's not.
Yeah, it's a good carb to have.
Okay.
And it's pretty simple ingredients, and it gets you a good little pump. So pre-workout is great. It's like my mid-morning snack. I love that with a little bit of guacamole. It's funny because in prep especially, you have like these foods that you gravitate towards. So last summer, it was pretzels.
Okay.
Like if I could have like a pretzel at night.
And that was your carb that would like keep you going?
Yeah, like a snack. Like for me, it was pretzel. I love pretzels. And then I went through the summer, I had a creamy, the Ninja Creamy, which is super popular among bodybuilders, believe it or not, because we can make ice cream out of protein and water. Ah. I'm not saying it tastes exactly like the real thing,
but it does the trick.
Yeah, I mean, when you need something sweet and you can't have it, it is nice to be able to control the variables in your macros with your ice cream and make it there. And then this prep, it's been guacamole and protein pancakes.
I saw that.
I love them.
On her Instagram, you were saying like you could eaten anything the day after you competed, but you wanted those protein pancakes.
I did. I'm so used to them. I get this like cinnamon toast crunch flavored protein. I mix it with a half cup of egg whites. I know it sounds so delicious, doesn't it? It's actually.
It probably actually is.
It's honestly, it's very close to the real thing. And people are like, "Oh, that's not a real pancake." It's not. No, but it's pretty close. And then I actually moisten it up a little bit with bananas, and then I add some blueberries on top, and it's almost like the real thing. It doesn't even need syrup or anything
looked
like
good.
that. Yeah, I have it every morning. I ate it this morning, in fact, before the gym. It's my favorite thing. I look forward to it.
I love it. I love that you have that you've adjusted in such a way. We were also talking about this on the break, is just your body doesn't respond the same way to certain things since you've been training. So with feeding the boys and feeding your husband and also going out and having a social life? Like, what does that look like in the transition for you?
Well, I wouldn't say I have much of a social life. I have friends, 3 of them that I can name. I'm kidding. I have 4 friends.
We won't leave you out, fourth friend. Yeah. We won't tell you who you are, but we won't leave you out.
Right? I would say that I don't go out nearly as much. And it's kind of sad because I know I should not feel this way, but it's nice to be invited even if I'm not going to show up. And sometimes I do get my feelings hurt a little bit because I feel like people have stopped inviting me to things simply for the fact that they know I'm probably not going to come. Right. Or if I do come, I'm going to be embarrassing and bring my own chicken.
Or your scale.
Yeah, or my scale. Yes, that's something else that we were talking about on the break that I think is also important to mention. I would actually say like an unhealthy attachment to my food scale. I have 3 of them. I have one that's my favorite, which is a weird thing to say. Like no one should have their favorite food scale, but here we are. But I weigh every single thing that I eat. I do a diet of macros, macro counting, and my coach tells me, you know, what I should be eating in terms of my proteins, fats, and carbs. And something else worth mentioning is that for the last 3 weeks, not this week because I'm finally kind of recovering a little bit from all of this, I would wake up in the morning and have to weigh myself and send my weight to my coach. And then he would tell me what I could eat that day. Wow. In terms of like my macros.
Wow. So that's hard to not obsess over, probably, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So I guess what is the healthy balance? And especially for someone that may be listening, like what is that healthy balance? And even if you haven't maybe achieved it yet, because we're always in a state of evolving and figuring things out, right? But like, what does a healthy balance look like for you in that regard?
Okay, so I was probably the least strict this prep. And keep in mind, I've been winning. So I have no regrets whatsoever. Joseph, if you're listening, stop listening now. Go find something to do. But if I wanted to have a drink, an alcoholic beverage, tequila and club, I frequently ate sweet potato fries. If I was out, I would order something, but I would try to order something healthy on the menu. Yeah. You know, something that would fit in with what I was doing. Even if I was a little bit over what I was supposed to be eating for the day or things like that, I tried to, you know, give myself those brain breaks, if you will. Right. Because it isn't for me, and I'm not speaking for all bodybuilders when I say this or all athletes or anything like that, but for me, in order to achieve what I've achieved, I also have to have room to embrace the fact that as a person, I have needs.
Yes.
And sometimes those needs are sweet potato fries and tequila.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
And it keeps you going because for me, it was just something where when I was really, really restrictive of myself and I was so lean and so hard, I felt so deprived and I wasn't winning.
See?
And this time I gave myself more grace and more space to enjoy things. Not all the time, you know, not super frequently, but if there was like a super need for me to have something, I didn't say I couldn't have it. Right. I had it and then I just, you know, moved forward, you know. And my coach actually said something to me. On my son's birthday, I asked him if I could have a piece of cake. But this is back in March 31st. It was actually Easter Sunday. We're having a brunch. And he said to me, he's like, yes, you can have the cake because I know that I trust you that if you have the cake, you are not going to turn that into the whole cake. Right. And it's very easy to do that. Yeah. That can be a struggle. I didn't have the cake. I substituted that for a mimosa. No regrets again. But there has to be some type of balance. And there's people that do very well and they're super strict. I found in my limited experience, as it may be, that what works better for me is if I'm not depriving myself entirely. Yeah.
So what does the off season look like then as far as food consumption or alcohol or when you're not training? Lord.
Well, I would say that I did not succeed at reverse dieting properly after the last show. So obviously your hormones are going to get all jacked up and I'm 40. Like, let's not play with this. I am 40 years old. So my metabolism isn't like it was when I was 18 or 20, 25 or even 30 or 35. So I learned the hard way, and I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, that you can't just like go to the other extreme. Right. And I did, you know, I was like, pizza, let's do it. Happy hour.
You were hurting.
Sign me up. Tacos, please. Yeah. You know, and mentally, I think that hurt me. Yeah. But physically, it gave me something to work with, to build with. So right now I'm actually trying to reverse diet, which means that you're not trying to put on a ton of weight quickly because that can very easily happen after show. So I am trying to rein myself in a little bit and just increase my calories and my macros slowly to a workable range where I'm in a caloric surplus that I can, you know, put on more muscle to compete in the fall. without, going absolutely crazy.
There was something that we talked about in the beginning that I don't think we finished talking about, but when you said you were too built in the beginning to be a bikini competitor, so what did that look like in changing your body structure?
Oh,
or maybe it's not structure. I don't know if I'm using the right words.
It is a little bit, because when we're talking about specifically bikini bodybuilding, you are trying to achieve symmetry and balance. You can't be too chiseled. You shouldn't have any striations of your muscle. You should have a softer look, but it needs to be balanced. So we're talking about an hourglass shape.
Okay.
And different bodybuilding categories have different, shape aesthetics that they're looking for in the athletes. So with bikini and being a little bit too hard, I just, I hate to say this about myself, but if I'm going to be very honest with you, I am not a curvy lady. And Tamara lied to me. Tamara lied to me, and I'll tell you when. When I got pregnant, I was so scared that I was going to gain all this weight and I was never going to take it off. Spoiler alert, it all comes off. It did come off. But she told me that I was going to be the same girl, but now I would have hips and I would have a little waist and big hips. And that didn't happen. I'm built like a Lego. So,
like a Lego.
Like a Lego.
You
and
do
I've
have
changed.
a tiny frame.
I've changed, but I was very much a SpongeBob SquarePants, as people would meanly call me,
right?
In the bodybuilding world, because not everybody's friendly. Lots of people are, but I had been called SpongeBob and a Lego, and that's why I've sort of adopted it, embraced it, and I was like, okay, fine, embraced it. What am I talking about?
But you look feminine. You look like a woman. You don't look like I don't see that as a bad thing.
So what do I have to do? I'm not a naturally curvy girl, so I had to build out my shoulders and I had to build out my glutes to give me that aesthetic. And guess what? It worked.
And you won.
Yeah,
and I'm winning. I love
and
how
now
you
I'm
say
going to do that even more, and I'm going to come back even bigger, and I'm going to come back even better. So everyone who has something negative to say about my body or my shape, I say that the time for your opinion on my body is never, and the place for that opinion is in the trash.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's between me and my coach, and that's it.
You can now tell it to the ring.
Yeah, right? I must be doing something right.
Something's working because I'm winning.
Yes, exactly.
So you were in Florida and the boys got to experience Disney. What was that like?
Oh man, I love Disney, first of all. And it's been a while since I've been there. And believe it or not, back in the day, I used to dance in the Magic Kingdom.
Really?
It was part of a theater dance troupe I was in. And
I love these fun facts.
Yeah, the stage was still there. I was so excited I got to see it. But the big part of this trip was that I loved the idea that I was competing in Orlando at a big, huge, awesome show with great swag, really great athletes, good people, nice competition. And I was able to bring my boys and take them to Disney World.
Yes.
And that was actually a dream come true. I am my happiest when my kids are happy.
Yeah.
And actually there's something funny that my son, my 5-year-old, and I say, Remy, we have this thing where I ask him if he's happy or he'll ask me if I'm happy. And we always say, I'm happy if you're happy.
Aw,
and it's really sweet. It really is. And to see him, I mean, granted, I did take him on Space Mountain and I did not tell him it was an adult roller coaster. So the pictures of that are pretty hilarious. And if you ask him, if you ask him what his least favorite part of Disney was, he'll tell you right now, the roller coaster, the dark roller coaster. And his favorite was the Buzz Lightyear ride. But it was just magical enough that I am already thinking about going back in November. Can I compete again there? Can I go back? And I will. I'm going to go back to the Florida Pro next year, and I'm going to defend my title for sure, and take my boys and probably go back to Disney because it was such a magical experience.
So when you go switch from competition mode to mom mode, do they still see you as like, my mom's this bodybuilding champ, or they just see you as mom?
They just see me as mom all the time. And this was their first time actually being present in the room when I was competing, and they could care less.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I mean, at that
they're
age,
little tornadoes that could care less. I tell them I'm competing in World's Strongest Mommies.
I love it.
Yeah. So I don't really explain to them bodybuilding or bikini or like I'm trying to get this. I just say we need to get big and strong because I'm trying to also set an example for my kids.
Yeah.
To what healthy bodies look like, and that they come in a variety of shapes and sizes. So this isn't like a contest to see who can be the skinniest or who can be whatever. But I'm trying to instill in them a good sense of body image.
Yes.
And so I call it World's Strongest Mommy.
I love that.
Because
and you are
we
the
want
world's
to be
strongest
strong.
mommy.
Yes, we want to be
You
strong.
are.
Yeah, well, they always say, are you World's Strongest Mommy? I am today,
I think it's
son.
really important to know, too, that you have boys, and we don't always think about that when it comes to boys, especially as women who have grown up with certain images, self-image issues and things. We don't always think to talk to the boys about those things. We're always worried about how the girls feel.
I will not be raising crusty, dusty boys. They will be well-versed in how to treat females and what that looks like.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure. That's a priority on my list, is to make sure that my sons are respectful of everybody.
I'm sure they will be. And it really shows in how you carry yourself that you are. And I think what's really fun, and we haven't even talked about, is that aside from all of this, she's also a high school English teacher.
That is also true.
An English teacher and someone who really cares about the kids that she teaches, and she pours love and life into every day when she's not in the gym or after the gym. There's so much that we do on any given day. It's like we celebrate these big accomplishments and achievements, but a lot of times we're just being mom, or we're just being Mrs. Masino, or whatever it is. So what does that look like, I guess, mom to competitor is one thing, but then teacher to competitor has to be a whole different beast.
It is, and it's tough. And I talk about this because it's like I compartmentalize my life.
Yeah.
We all have the same 24 hours in the day, and we all have different things that hold us up and things like that. For me, I'm very blessed in that I have the ability and the support system in place that I can give 100%. And sometimes it's not 100%. I give what I can give in any given moment, right. But I have the support system in place where I can be a great teacher. I can be a competitive bodybuilder. Right. I can be a mom. And of course, the most important of all of those things is mom. Right. That comes first. And of course, wife to my husband, I want him to feel supported and loved as well. But it's a weird thing. Nugget Masino is very different from Lori Masino. Okay. They're two different people. Yes, I understand that. I do not intersect my worlds.
Okay. That makes sense. So Lori Masino is the teacher. Yeah. Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. So we'll stay with Nugget Masino then.
I go by Nugget, by the way, and I have for some time. That's how I identify.
So let's talk about that. Where did that come from?
Oh gosh. It's been forever and ever. I don't know.
You don't even know at this point.
It just stuck. And you know what? My name being Lauren, it's like there was a Lauren, a Laura, a Lori growing up. That was a very popular name. And so now I feel like if it's Nugget Masino, it's become who I am.
I didn't even know your actual name for the longest time.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, professionally, I that's the only place that I go by my actual first name is at my job. And I feel like outside of that, if someone were to call me that, I would say, 1, you don't know me, or 2, we're not friends.
Right. Yeah. I forget until you just said it.
It's my preferred name.
That's so funny. I love it.
And it's who I am now. And if someone's talking about Nugget, for better or for worse, they're talking about me.
Right. Exactly. This is true.
No confusion.
This is true. I never met another Nugget in my life. The first time I kind of saw you, I guess, in this community, or figured out who you were doing headstands pregnant with Remy at the Leadership Studio. Or handstands, headstands, something. I saw you online and I was like, who is this girl?
Yeah, look at this crazy lady. I've evolved past that, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Not past yoga. I think yoga is wonderful and such an important part of my life. And I think it's such a great thing, and it's a great tool for lots of people. Yeah. And the Leadership Studio is wonderful and amazing. And if you've never been there, anyone listening, I highly recommend that you check them out in Atlantic City. But I don't know. I've evolved.
Yeah. I think a lot of us have. I don't know if it's COVID. I think COVID kind of like nudged us all in a weird way to like look at ourselves and really ask what we want. Or if it's just like the collective of women growing and evolving together in different ways. I feel like I know I've changed. I've evolved as a person. And I hear you say that. And I recognize that you've also evolved. And I know it's not just us. I know it's right. So like there is a collective kind of evolution, I think, happening in how we used to show up, especially on social media.
Yes.
How we used to show up versus where we're at now, and trying to show up with a level of like, I know who I am and I know what I'm good at, but also authenticity and like, this is where I'm at now.
Yeah. I think COVID really forced us all to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah.
And to face those truths about ourselves and to be, and maybe it's because I'm 40 now. I don't know.
It's a great year.
It could be the fact that I am now a grown person. I feel like I wasn't really an adult until now. Now I feel like, and we were joking, and maybe, listeners at home or whatever in the car can relate to this. I am now someone that sends text messages with voice to text. Yeah. And I think that's just something I do now at 40 years old. I can't be bothered to actually type it out. And I don't care if it's misspelled. I don't care if you don't get the whole message.
You'll get it.
It's just what I do.
So what's next for you though? What's coming up?
So I'm actually doing Dancing Under the Rainbow with
Oh,
AC
that's
Pride.
right.
I didn't even get to talk about that. So, yes, the AC Pride is doing a scholarship fundraiser as part of North to Shore, and it's going to be on Friday night, June 21st at the Claridge.
Okay. Oh.
And I am dancing I'm dancing a tango with a female partner.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I
so
love
I'm actually
that.
super excited. Michelle, my partner, is an amazing dancer.
Okay.
Very patient with me. Val, our choreographer, is also a fantastic dancer. He works at the Hook, and we're dancing at Arlen's Dance Studio. He's been giving us his space and his resources to practice, and it's actually a real competition with judges and everything else. And you can donate to me by going to the AC Pride website and donating to Nugget Masino, because that's also part of the competition, is seeing who can raise the most money. And I am not in first place right now. And
All right, so wait, what's the website then?
it's acpride, I think, .com, something like that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have it exactly.
It's okay. We're going to look for AC Pride.
Yes, AC Pride, Dancing Under the Rainbow.
Dancing Under the Rainbow. I'll put it out somewhere on my social media after this. But yeah, look for that and donate, because we got a champ in the house. We got to keep her winning.
Yes.
So
yes, I would like to win. So, and I will be dancing the tango. So if you want to come out, there are tickets available for that show also at the AC Pride website. It should be a great night, and it's one of the premier events as part of the North to Shore Festival.
I love that. So it's my daughter's birthday, or I would be there. She's turning 14. I don't know how that's possible, because I was just 14.
Wasn't she just 7?
Yeah, tell me about it. And June 22nd, personal plug real quick, I'm having a poetry night at Union Hall Arts, 4 to 7 p.m., also part of North to Shore. So look for North to Shore. I believe it's northtashore.com. But just Google North to Shore. It's the New Jersey-wide arts festival that showcases art in all its beautiful forms. I'll give you the quick podcast question that I always ask my guests is, when do you feel like the coolest person in the world? You got 30 seconds.
When do I?
Yes.
When I have the crown on my head, the ring on my finger, I'm standing there in the spotlight, and I've got 2 kids in each arm.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 1 kid in each arm. My 2 kids with me. And that's when I feel like I am achieving something that I never thought I could do.
Yeah.
And that's pretty darn cool.
Well, congratulations, champ. And I know they're proud of you, and I'm proud of you and proud to know you. So thank you for sharing this time with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, welcome back to the Coolest People in the World podcast. I am here with my guest this week, Miss Nugget Masino. Welcome, Nugget.
Hello, hello. I'm happy to be here.
So this is twice this week that I've gotten to interview you, which is really exciting because I went from like nothing to everything.
Yeah, I feel so important today and this week.
Well, you are important this week. You are the champ. The champ is here. The champ is in the building. So we're here to pick up where we left off. So it just kind of worked out timing wise, where you ended up winning this bodybuilding championship in Florida, coming home. I happened to be on the radio on Saturday on Joe's Table for Two, and I wanted you on the podcast. So here we are kind of piecing it all together instead of, I mean, we're 2 moms trying to do a lot. So it made sense to try to make it all come together in one nice big show.
Yes, absolutely.
So you've had a chance to listen to the radio show. So you got the kind of nuts and bolts of who Nugget is, what she does. She's a mom. She's an amazing teacher. We talked about that. Wife, bodybuilder, and she is the champ. She's in the house. And I want to get down to kind of the nitty gritty, the fun stuff, the off the air, but still on, on these airwaves. So I wanted to get to the real talk. So let's talk body image when it comes to bodybuilding. On a personal note, you and I have talked about this, but I just kind of want to bring it to the show, and people who have followed me for any amount of time know that my journey has been very much a weight loss and weight gain journey. And I've struggled with some self-image and body image issues along the way that I've shared publicly in many ways. And it's part of my book and part of kind of the story I've told. And when you and I first met each other in passing, I don't think I was in like a healthy enough mental space to really receive you, because you were so dedicated, and I was coming from a place of such unhealthy obsession as it related to like health and fitness that I really didn't know how to receive you. And I kind of feel like we had this, I don't really know if we like each other, but I don't not like you. But we had a
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I agree with that. And I think, there's it can be perceived, especially by the outside world, and not that you're on the outside world, but by people that like want to be a part of something, but they don't know how to get into that because they feel some sort of I don't know, inferiority. It's perceived. It's definitely not a lack. It's a perceived lack. Where, there can be this misinterpretation or this standoffishness where it's like, I can't be that, so I reject it.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that because I've probably felt that way about, even within the community of bodybuilding or within other areas where I have had a perceived lack on my part, which wasn't necessarily a perceived lack. It was just an experience
Right.
or me not understanding or not being in a place to understand the language that is being spoken in bodybuilding, for instance, what this other person is presenting themselves or showing up or how they're showing up in the world, I guess I should say, at that time. And it's more of like a language barrier, I think, is funny as that is to say,
Yeah.
than it is necessarily like our true lack on anyone's part. But I can see how that would be the case. Plus, I have a very strong personality. Um, or even maybe I come across to people as one way, but I don't think I necessarily present the way that I really am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that also could probably, definitely affect someone's perception of me.
Yeah, well, I always admired what you did. Like I said, I remember seeing you do headstands pregnant at the yoga studio, being like, dang, that girl can really do some things with her body. But
One thing I could do, one thing. Ask me to do a back bend or like a wheel. Couldn't do it, but you know what? I had that headstand down and I did it. I did it so hard.
you
And then,
sure
you
did.
were looking at me like, look at her do these headstands. And I'm like, it's because I can't do anything else, but that's not what you're seeing.
Isn't it funny though, the perception we have of
It is.
people?
It is. It's a lot of perception.
So I guess that's a perfect kind of segue. Well, I want to know about like any type of body image, maybe journey that you've had as your body has changed, but then also kind of piggybacks on my next question, which is where do you feel like you've been most misunderstood on this journey?
Okay, so those are two very deep questions, and I think I can't answer them both in one
Okay.
way. So I'm going to start with the dysmorphia aspect because believe it or not, I probably suffer from that more now than I ever have in my life. And I do approach all of this, and I mentioned this a little bit on the podcast with my unhealthy obsession with the food scale,
Mhm.
um, is that there is this sense of ignorance being bliss. There were times in my life, like I am not naturally a skinny person. I'm not necessarily a big person either. I don't, I'm somewhere in between. I've always been sort of athletic, but if I don't work out or if I don't do things, then I'm certainly going to put on weight. But in bodybuilding, you spend so much time, and I'm not talking like in passing, I'm talking you spend every single day for a period of time analyzing what you look like in a mirror to the point where you don't see yourself accurately anymore.
Mm.
And that's why I am so invested in my coach Joe, because when I get too in my head about the way that I look, I do have some awareness of the fact that I do not see myself the way that I actually am. I have to go to him and ask him where we are.
Mhm.
And that's either way, because I can look like I look like now, and I can see every single thing that's wrong with me or that I could improve. And that's the beautiful thing about this sport. It
Yeah.
really is beautiful that even at your best, even when you're winning, there are things to improve. You can always be better. But the downside of that is that you look at those things and you're like, man, my shoulders aren't wide enough, or,
Right.
I'm not capped enough, and I don't look like this girl on Instagram. And a lot of the things that people are looking at on Instagram, and again, this is no hate to anybody that is on any type of enhancement.
Hmm.
Um, but there are certain things that are not achievable with a natural body.
Right.
You would have to have 100% perfect genetics to get close to that. And I think of so much what is thrown into my face and what is thrown into like anybody's face that is, you Google or you search out like bodybuilder, bikini bodybuilders one time, and suddenly the algorithm is sending you every perfect or, perfect looking body that you've ever seen or does exists. And you can't help but compare yourself to that. And where is your lack? And again, that lack comes up.
Right.
So that has been difficult for me. And then the other side of it, and a darker side of it, and something that I definitely want to talk about is, you're not prepared for when you win, for other athletes to, take it to social media and be talking about how, the fat girl with no muscle shouldn't
Oh,
have won that show.
oh, yes. That's something that I think across the board in every industry, everybody who's trying to do something, whether it's performance based or business based or influence or whatever, the internet right now has become way more awful. Like it's always been awful, but I just feel like it's become so awful really since 2020 specifically, but over the past couple years that it's almost scary to do the thing that you want to do for fear of people on the internet.
Oh man, and it's like I think it's even worse when it comes from people that you wanted to like or you wanted to respect.
Yeah.
And then you see them say these things or act a certain type of way. Actually, no, you know what? They fully put it out there. People fully will put out there their thoughts
Hmm.
about anything. And what they fail to realize is that it's not the girl who won's fault.
Right.
She didn't pick herself to win. The judges, for whatever reason, whatever the criteria was, whatever the situation was, that's the way that the chips fell that day.
Right.
And no one wants to look at themselves and say, what can I do better? Or where did I miss the criteria? Or what did I not get at that specific minute, specific hour of the day? And let's be honest, because bodies change throughout the day.
Right.
Everybody weighs differently at night than they do in the morning. Everybody looks different. You do your best to peak at the exact right time, the exact right way, but it doesn't always happen. And more often than not, it doesn't happen. But it was extremely disheartening, at times to see that people I wanted to like, people I wanted to be friends with, because that's my favorite part of this sport is meeting, especially women and men too, but especially women who are as interested in this as I am and who love it as much as I do.
Mm.
And most of the time I have met people that, are very nice and, I've gotten close with, but then it's like you meet those one or two people that you really look up to or think are doing like a great job and you want to be a part of that. And then you just see them tear other
Mm.
people down.
That's a shame. That's
It
really
is a shame.
scary.
It actually like really, it bums me out. It bums me out because a lot of times these women are over 40 and
Mm.
they have children. And I
Wow.
just, I don't, that's not me. That's not my vibe. And I'm out. I'm not messing with that. That's not
Yeah.
where I want to be. It's not who I want to be.
It's such a sad reality that there is a dark side to everything. Everything you see in the light is like there's always this dark side to it. And one of my questions for you actually was because you had mentioned being 40 and we talked about you being a mom of two, like in comparison to your competition, like where does that range? Are they about your age, younger? Um,
Um, well, bodybuilding's funny because I think, and then maybe I'm biased because I am 40. I think that the older you are, the better you look. Um, I
I
have
can,
noticed a trend because when you're 18, and it's funny, and not everybody is the same, but typically across the board, when you're 18, your metabolism outside of any, health issues or things like that. So I'm not talking about, there's always outliers or there's always health issues or things like that. But generally speaking, when you're 18, like your body's still growing,
right.
you're everything is happening at a quick rate for you. But as you age, as you have children, as your body changes, as you get exposed to chemicals and life and everything else, it becomes harder for you to lose the weight.
Mhm.
It becomes harder for you to maintain the muscle. Um, so I think when women who are older than 35, and especially if they have children, not that that's precludes anyone from this, but there is something really beautiful about that to me. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that those women have something where there's muscle maturity there that looks better on stage
Okay.
because you can tell. I mean, I don't want to say we all look weathered. That's not what, that's not the right word. And that sounds terrible. It's like we're weathered. But there's something to the fact that these muscles have been through it. They may have pushed out a
Yeah.
child. They may have, done the same movements day in, day out forever. And there's something to that you can see it. It's almost, I don't know. I mean,
That's
I
interesting.
definitely think that
Sure.
there's beauty in younger girls. Obviously, there's, they're beautiful. All of them are beautiful. You line up these girls one next to each other. There's not one bad looking person on stage, otherwise they wouldn't be there to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I think there's just something, something beautiful about it when you had to work a little harder to keep things higher and tighter than, I'm 18, I'm
Yeah.
22, and it just, that's where it goes. The second I step on a treadmill,
That's very
everything goes in the
interesting.
right place. Because I'll tell you, I've had my insides rearranged twice now
Yeah.
from C-sections. So not even just, normal
Dang.
births, but C-sections.
I didn't
And
realize
I
you
was
had
put together,
C-sections.
I had to because my first my firstborn was 2 weeks late. He was 10 pounds, and I was in labor for 30 hours after being induced before I had
Oh,
to have an emergency C-section.
30 hours. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was terrible. It was actually pretty terrible. And I was you know, you don't know what you don't know when you're having a baby.
Absolutely.
But you go in there and I just remember being like, I just don't want to have a C-section. I just don't want to have a C-section. And then there I was. And it was probably one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. And it really does put a lot of things into perspective when I think about,
Yeah.
30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I would definitely be dead,
Right.
I'm not one of these. Okay, let me know when to talk again.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I guess I was saying that, we do these things twice, so it can't be that bad, but it wasn't that enjoyable. But I had to have my body put back together from having everything taken out and rummaged around. So things were very different after both of those. My body was different. My body looks different. Like my abs are different
Yeah.
because they were cut and put back together.
So I think this is a perfect opportunity too, because like I want to go back to this misunderstood question. So
Okay.
you are a mom and you've done this throughout having babies while raising kids, while getting up at what did you say? What did you call that, crack of John?
Oh God. Crack of John. Yeah, the crack of John.
Waking
That
up
was a typo that actually was pretty funny.
it works. So the crack of John to get it all
Yeah.
done. So I guess in that, going back to the misunderstood question, where do you feel like people don't really see like what's happening behind the scenes?
I think that, and see, this is like terrible because maybe this isn't really how people see me, but I think that sometimes people have an expectation of what I must be like.
Mm,
And then that's the version of me that lives in their head unless they get to know me. And that version of me is probably very type A. I am a Capricorn, um, of someone who does not have a lot of fun. And maybe it's true. Maybe I don't have that much fun. I don't know. But I think maybe they think I'm more standoffish because I tend to be quiet, at first. And I think they just see me as somebody who works, and that's not necessarily something that people relate to, I guess, because I think a lot of people are trying to get away from work or out of work.
mhm,
And I'm a bit more on the serious side, and I think sometimes people misinterpret that as a hardness or maybe a meanness, or maybe because of what I do that I'm judging them,
mm.
while they're judging me. But I promise you that, I know I don't look at anyone's bodies, outside of the actual competition, um, and wonder how I stack up against them or how they're stacking up against me. That's never a consideration. But I do think that maybe that would be something that people might say, "Oh God, she's looking at me." Like I teach English, right?
Right.
And one of the things that people always say to me, and it's so annoying. There's two things people say to me. One being, "Oh, I don't speak perfect English. Does that bother you?" Or or things like that. And no, I'm not actually noticing that because I use very colorful language outside of my classroom. Like I'm never thinking of that. I often misspeak. I often say the wrong thing. So there is this sort of, I guess, assumption that I'm judging people on their grammar when they speak.
Mm.
And maybe it's the same way with body image and why that might be the case.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the other thing that always grosses me out, and I hope I can say this here, but like, I don't like talking about work because inevitably there will be someone that always says to me, and it grosses me out so much, like, "Oh, the kids must really love you."
Mm.
And it just grosses me out on such a level that I'd never want to talk about what I do. Because no one can assume that a girl could be smart, intelligent, and professional
Right.
and also be a competitive bodybuilder. You know?
Yeah, but that's I think worth the conversation though, because that's oftentimes what many of us are doing in some way. We're trying to separate these versions of ourselves because there's preconceived notions about what people think we are, and how can you be this and that too. And I think many people live different versions of that. So I appreciate you sharing it. And
It's weird with the sexualization of either of those aspects of my life too.
now your students
I don't
support you.
know. Oh yeah, I'm very open about the fact that I'm a bodybuilder. A lot of my students are athletes and they appreciate that. And I think that that actually gets me some respect
Mm,
with them because they know through their own athletic pursuits that it takes a lot of discipline for them to achieve certain things. And so when they see me achieving certain things, I think that creates a rapport.
yeah.
that we have. And even for my non-athletes, like I have a lot of girls that have approached me in recent years, like seniors who are, I want to get into that and I want to go to the gym, and where do I start? Can you train me? Can I get a trainer? How do I do this? So I like to see young girls getting into that, because I do think that bodybuilding, as much as like I have the dysmorphia that I talked about,
Mm.
I do think that there is a lot of healthy things to be explored there by girls and teenagers.
Mm.
um Discipline, self-respect,
Mm-hmm.
lifting weights. I mean, there's just so much that goes along with it that I do think is really, really good, especially for young girls to sort of get into. um and I like to see the sport expand
Yeah.
to younger people, so if I can inspire them to get into it, then that's just phenomenal.
So what would we kind of talked about the dark side of things. We talked about your dysmorphia and things that you go through. So if you were talking to an 18-year-old who's thinking about bodybuilding, what kind of advice would you offer them?
I would say just start somewhere, start asking questions, go and find people that are doing what you want to do. Like they're asking me, where do you start? You have to go and pick it up. And before you invest too much into it, because it is a very expensive sport, I'll be the first person to say it. Go and figure out if it's for you. Go and see if you can consistently hit the gym for a month, 2 months. If you can follow this, like I always suggest, doing macros. That's the diet that I follow. Get a coach, talk to people, figure out who would work best with you, those types of things. And that might sound like a loaded answer, but at the same time, these kids are all very well versed in the internet and
Yeah.
social media, and these athletes and these coaches are all over the place. So there's a wealth of information and resources outside of myself, because again, I've only been doing this for a year myself. Now I've been working out forever,
Hmm.
but as far as competitive bodybuilding goes, I'm still very new to this sport.
Right.
And I don't claim to be an expert and have all the answers for everybody all of the time, but there are certainly, if I can't be the resource, there's so many other people out there that can be. And it is a really great community, and I don't want to make it seem like it's not, just because there's a couple of people that have to ruin it, for everybody else from time to time. But I would say largely, more than largely, it's a very supportive environment. And a lot of these organizations and competitions have teen categories
Mm.
that are specifically for kids who are 16 to 18 or 19. So
Interesting.
it is a good thing for them to get into. Yeah, and I mean, you can only get better if you start really young. I'm a
Absolutely.
little late to the
Absolutely.
party.
I always think
Yeah.
about like the self-image. I coming back to that. I always think about that for young girls. And maybe that's just my own brain where it goes because of my journey, because I started out on this public weight loss journey earlier. It's a different story, right? But
Yeah.
I always think about the self-image and the mental health aspect too for someone who is young getting into something that is, I don't know, extreme might be an extreme word for the situation, but it's very intense. It's a commitment.
I would say that bodybuilding has been the healthiest expression of my physical fitness. As someone who played sports, who was a runner, who was a cardio bunny, I would say that the healthiest and most balanced
Mm.
experience that I've had has been through bodybuilding. And I
Oh,
think if you have the right coach and you're with the right people, they're going to put you on something that is going to make you stronger and healthier. And it's never about getting smaller. In fact, I'm trying to get bigger.
mm.
I am trying to get bigger right now. I'm trying to get massively wide shoulders and a even bigger dump truck, if you will. And for me to do that, I have to eat. So
Right,
it's a beautiful thing, but at the same time, it's really strange when you haven't, gone off your diet for a while to see that your calories are rising, your carbs are rising.
right.
But I would say that the most balance it's ever been is with the guidance of someone who is going to guide you towards that. And I talked about this too. Stage lean isn't a forever lean. So when we're talking about bodybuilding, we're talking about competition weight. You're talking about a month out of 12.
Right, right.
And the rest of the time is just trying to get stronger and bigger instead of getting smaller. And I spent a lot of time in my life, and perhaps you can relate to this. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. You spend so much time trying to be smaller,
Mhm,
as small as possible.
mhm.
You look at clothes sizes in stores and you think, oh my God, I'm a 4. I need to be a 2. I was 2 yesterday. I was a 2 in this store. Why am I 4 here?
Right.
They don't even make sense with sizes. Let's just not even go down that
Mhm.
rabbit hole. But there's this weird thing where we all try to get smaller, and it wasn't until I started trying to get bigger that I think I had a much more healthy relationship with diet and exercise.
I love that. And
And incidentally, I think I look the best ever.
you do. So you just keep leading me right into my next questions, because my next question
Perfect. I love
was,
that.
can we talk about those pictures that you took? Because though you had to just feel incredible seeing those pictures. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I mentioned it on the radio interview. Go look at Nugget's Instagram, NugFit. These pictures are just, everyone you post, I'm like, they get better and better. Talk to me about it.
I
Talk to me
have a
about the
ton of
picture.
them that I didn't even post. Okay, so I am not a model. I would love to fancy
Could have
myself
fooled
one.
me.
I think we, well, I think we all have that thing where we're like, oh yeah, I could take a picture. But the first thing I said to this man was, I'm very awkward. So, and they ask you, do you have any model experience? And I'm like, well, I've done a little bit of acting and things like that, but not really like modeling per se. And, thank God that this was just a great photographer. And Lewis, he has an Instagram, which is not right in front of me at this time, but I should totally give him a plug. I tagged him in all the photos.
I'll
And I'm
put it
assuming you're talking about yeah,
in the show
yeah,
description.
definitely tag him. And Greg Walk, who was G Diesel Photo or something like that, I'll get that too. He was actually the show photographer who shot me outside of the hotel as well. And I haven't had a chance to post a lot of those yet, but they were really great too. It's just funny. I really credit the photographers because I am not someone that is a naturally good poser. And I say that as someone who poses on stage and is judged for that. But that was always my weak point. And until recently, my posing has really come up and it's become a strong point for me. But that's something I had to practice every single day. So when I say that these pictures were great, oh my God, you were just as shocked as I was. Trust me when I say I was like, oh, these are great. I
I
don't look like, I honestly, he took about 1,000 and quite a few of them, I do look like I'm, a fish out of water. But there was some really, really great ones that came through. And I really do have to attribute that to the talent of the photographers and not necessarily my ability to, serve face. Although the makeup artist was really great too. And the hair artist and all of those things that, go into that.
yeah,
But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I felt
everything.
good. And you can tell I felt good. And I think that reads in the photos is that I felt good about that.
It does. So did you take the pictures? You took them after you won?
Well, it's funny. I took a set. So I paid for a set because I had seen his work before and I was really looking forward to working with him because I like I said, I saw his work before and it was some of the most incredible bodybuilding photography I've seen, just his play with lighting. And so he said, okay, you just come back here whenever you want. And my kids were with me in Florida too. And there was a lot of downtime between categories and things. And I just, wasn't fully prepared to go do a photo shoot. So I waited until after the whole first part of the pre-judging was over and I went down there and I took a bunch of shots, which a lot of them I haven't even posted. I posted like one or two from that, but there were some pretty good ones there. And then after I won, he was packing up and getting ready to go. And I was like, wait, can I get a couple pictures with the crown? So we didn't get that many with the crown, but the ones that we did get, I was like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
so glad we did this. And actually, the Florida State Natural just released their first promo commercial for the 2025 show. And one of the shots with the crown where I'm holding it out is like the opening to the promo. So,
Yes, I love that. I love
yay, I
that.
know. I know. I was excited to see that.
So just really one more question for you, unless there's anything else you want to talk about. But
Sure.
how far do you envision yourself taking all this?
This was supposed to be one and done. So when I
Mhm.
say that, I don't know. I like to say that I'm here for a good time, not a long time. To be really good at the sport and to be really good at the sport as a natural, you have to take a year off, maybe 2 years off to build and grow. But I don't know that I have that in me.
Mm.
Um, Maybe I do. It was never a thought. I really just thought this is going to be a bucket list item. I never expected to win my first show. I did a couple more. Then I thought I could do better. And here we are. I don't know. I guess I just am taking it show by show and season by season and seeing where I'm going. I mean, I could get injured tomorrow and that could throw me out of this whole thing. So I'm just trying to enjoy it where I am,
I love
see
that.
where it takes me, and never say never.
I love that. And that's a perfect way to end this beautiful interview. So thank you.
You've been listening to the Coolest People in the World podcast with Krystle J Bailey. Visit us online today at thecoolestpeoplepodcast.com.